Not so long ago, in the mysterious land of Toronto, Canada, Scott Pilgrim was
Hello,
dating
everybody.
a high schooler.
My name's asoftdolphin, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a video analysis. It's a video analysis on Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's an amazing movie that is set up to and structured to create a story that you can rewatch for years to come. The movie starts with the camera panning to the house, where there are four people talking about the character Scott's girlfriend and making fun of him for dating a high schooler. The first scene introduces the band and young Neil, who lives there. The band consists of Steven, Kim, and Scott. The first song they practice is Launchpad McQuack, which after the first few notes has the camera actually pan under the couch and starts with the opening credits. A brilliant decision decided by Edgar Wright, who is the director behind Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The music shows us the type of band that they have, a punk rock band that's really mediocre. After the opening credits, we are cut into a scene where Scott's sister hears he is dating a high schooler, and he gets shunned. And then Scott and his gay roommate, Wallace of course, head to meet with Scott's girlfriend Knives at her high school, where her and Scott will go on to a date to the arcade and then go to the record store. At the record store, Scott lays down a bit more information just about who who shouldn't be named, is, and, who his sister first brings up in the opening scene. He's pretty insecure about the fact that she left him for her band. The movie pans to Scott having a dream where he is in a desert and a mysterious girl came through the dream and said, "You're just having some idiotic dream." He wakes up instantly and goes to the library with Knives, where he sees that girl from his dreams. He doesn't say anything to her, but he looks at her for a while. And then later on in this same day, Scott's band goes to a party where Scott sees a friend of his and asks if he knew a girl who looked like his picture. And of course he knows her and tells her that she might be there tonight. Now, I really like this scene because it's executed really well and cleverly. When Scott finds her, she stands next to her and tries to flirt by talking about the origin of Pac-Man. However, he completely fumbles the bag. Scott goes around and asks questions about her, and everyone tells him that she has some ex-boyfriends, and that Steven says that she just broke up with her last boyfriend. Scott receives an email that says something about 7 evil exes, blah blah blah, and quits reading it because it's boring. Little does he know, it's a plot point. Now that Scott knows about Ramona's existence, he's less attracted to Knives, and when they go on a date, he doesn't really show that much excitement. Scott tries to tell her that they should break up, but he chickens out. Steven gets them a gig at Battle of the Bands. When Scott says he has to go pee during this conversation, it actually is the start of a really nostalgic scene because the Zelda music starts to play in the scene, and he opens the door after peeing, and it's like he's in a dream inside of the school, and the music just makes it very, very powerful of a scene. And if you watch it, you'll definitely agree with me, I think. And then, when Scott ordered a package off Amazon, so after that dream, he answers the door, and it's the girl from his dreams. She works on Amazon, so he ordered a package and waited for her to get there. And when he answers the door, he asks her to hang out at 8 o'clock, and they meet at the park, and they just walk around and talk. It's a perfect first date in my opinion, and the snow makes the scene perfect. The music in the scene is utterly perfect, and the writing is perfect as well. They talk about their lives and why she ended up here, in Toronto that is. It's a very sweet and cute scene. Always puts a smile on my face, and then they say something about it being cold, and she says that there's a door somewhere around here. They go through the door, It's to her house. She offers him tea, and there's a song playing through the entire scene that really puts the scene together. The scene ends up with them kissing and them getting into bed and making out. After the night is over, Scott invites Ramona to see his band and Battle of the Bands. The next scene shows Ramona entering the rocket to see the show. This is when Ramona meets Knives. The entire rocket scene is amazing, starting with Crash and the Boys. And after their first song, Wallace says, "Hey, is that girl a boy too?" The songs are funny and quality, and then Scott's band goes on stage and plays The Garbage Truck. A really good song, but halfway through the song, Matthew Patel flies through the roof. And this is when the first fight starts. Scott doesn't know what to do, but instantly goes ham on bro. Matthew Patel is a fun fight because he has his scubuses fly around and sing a song. I think that's what they are, like little demon chicks. The entire fight scene is really amazing, and it gets you ready for the rest of the movie. But all fight scenes in this movie are really well done and are always a good rewatch, and they never leave you or me with a blank expression, and the differences in each fight are awesome. I really recommend watching this movie. They ask if Matthew is a pirate, where he responds, "Pirates are in this year," which is really hilarious. His song is like a gay pirate song, and it's amazing. It's a good time. It's a great fucking time. When Scott knocks out Matthew, he turns into change. Matthew doesn't just knock down and lay on the floor. He turns into change. He explodes. He implodes. After the first fight, the scene goes back to the apartment where they do a sitcom scene, which is also pretty outlandish, but also pretty hilarious. Wallace introduces the next evil X without Scott even realizing it. Lucas Lee, an actor who is filming in Toronto. Really good foreshadowing, I think, and it's, just really good. Scott meets up with Knives and plans to break up with her. He says they should break up, and it's clear Knives is heartstruck. On the bus back to the band, Scott looks happy because he can finally go for Ramona. Ramona and Scott have their first date, their first real date, I guess, at the house later in the night. And Scott sings her a song he made for her on the guitar. Scott didn't get a haircut for 431 days, and we find this out just because Ramona mentions it's shaggy. And he freaks out. The audience is given more information upon his ex-girlfriend. And then they go on to outside on a walk to the castle where Wallace is watching Lucas Lee. Ramona sees Lucas Lee and says, "Oh shit." And then the fight scene starts with Lucas Lee. Well, the fight scene with Lucas Lee is interesting because all his stunt doubles just jump Scott. When Lucas goes to grab coffee, Scott kicks all the stunt doubles' asses without you even seeing. Just you're watching Lucas Lee go grab his coffee. And then Scott screams out, "Hey Lucas, you need it back on set." It's a good fight because you don't think Scott will win. And he doesn't until the end, where he bets Lucas can't do a grindy thingy on the rails that go down like 600 steps. And he goes over 100 kph. I don't know what 100 kph, guys. I don't know what that is. I'm American. And he crashes. But he was going super fast. Wallace shows Scott on the phone number. And the next scene, Wallace and Scott are at their apartment again, and Wallace shows Scott the phone number on the paper, and there's 7 little X's, meant for 7 deadly X's. Scott thought it meant 7 kisses. Envy calls Scott. Envy is Scott's ex-girlfriend, and figures out who he is dating. Scott takes a walk, and a flying dark thing passes him by. It stops and says she is going to kick his ass. He goes to the coffee shop to see his sister, but stumbles across Ramona. Envy is also at the coffee shop. Envy invites Scott and his friends to her concert, and then Envy asks Steven to open because Scott was not going to bring it up. We cut to Knives dyeing her hair and being crazy. She texts young Neil and starts dating him. The Clash and Demon Head concert is a quality scene because of the editing, and because Scott figures out Todd is the guy in the band, hence being one of the evil exes. The song is really good, and I will admit, I have it in my big playlist for when I'm in my car. The fight starts after Todd punches Knives, and his vegan powers activate. The scene has a lot of funny writing, and the vegan parts are hilarious. After being thrown in a wall, Scott starts playing the bass. He wants a bass battle. But after losing the bass battle, Scott lands in the coffee shop, where he offers Todd a coffee with soy. After drinking the wrong cup, the vegan police show up and arrest Todd. Scott says, You once were a vegan, but now you will be gone. And then headbutts Todd and wins the fight. They head toward an after party where Scott starts to freak out, but then Ramona's ex-girlfriend comes in to beat up Scott. Ramona takes on Roxy in this fight, and Ramona doesn't want to have Scott fight her. This fight has a lot of fast moving, editing, and is intense. Gives a reason for the evil exes being a thing, and it's because of Gideon. Roxy states that Scott has to beat her with his own hands. Ramona takes control of Scott by grabbing his hands and helps him fight. When Scott gets put onto the ground, Ramona tells him her weak point is behind the knee. After Scott touches her knee, she exploded into coins because she got too excited. The next concert to go on is a battle of the bands, where it is Amps versus Amps. The band is severely underpowered in Amps versus the enemy band, but Scott spots Ramona, and Steven tells him that Ramona is talking to Gideon. It's very noticeable because Gideon is caressing her arm, and Scott gets mad, and the battle of the band scene is amazing because the fight is who can be louder and you would think the other guys would win easily, but the power of punk rock forms a gorilla of Soundwave to protect them. And the battle gets insane, and the music is insane. They play as loud as possible, and it's truly a kick-ass scene. Scott's band won somehow, and he approaches Ramona but finds Knives instead. When Scott finds Ramona, she says they have to break up because of Gideon. Gideon wants to sign Scott's band, but steals Scott's girlfriend. After breaking up, Scott and his sister are sitting at the park where Ramona and Scott's first date started. Scott and Gideon talk on the phone, making Scott very angry. Gideon invites Scott to the Chaos Theater. He enters by giving the password whatever, which is just funny. At Chaos Theater, we see the band in uniform. Scott approaches Gideon. Gideon stands ready to fight. When Scott says he loves Ramona, he earns the power of love and gains a sword. Scott starts fighting Gideon's workers and slaughters a lot of them. In a cool fight scene, Knives shows up and starts fighting Ramona for Scott. The fight scene is intense and intriguing. When Scott talks to Ramona and Knives, Gideon stabs him through the chest. He wakes up in the desert and talks to Ramona and learns why Ramona likes Gideon. Learning Ramona has a chip in her head that Gideon implanted, so she is submissive to him. Quite evil. Scott walks back to the Chaos Emerald and retries. The redoing of the fight is amazing and even better than the first one. Done quicker and more intense. Scott admits to Knives that he cheated on both of them, and he apologized so they don't fight over him again. Gideon stands up and Scott and Gideon fight a sword fight, and Scott and Knives team up to take him down. The fighting is very well done, and an insane scene, better than the first time they did it. Great editing that makes it look like a video game, which is what they were kind of going for. And Gideon starts to glitch out when he's lower health. The movie ends with Gideon exploding into change, and at the end of the movie, Scott has to face Nega Scott. basically Shadow Link from Ocarina of Time, which is hilarious and a great reference. They just talk and plan to meet up later on. The movie ends with Ramona planning to leave. Knives telling Scott to go after her. Scott and Ramona end up together, and the song Ramona performed by Beck being played. A door closing, hopefully to a great ending for Scott and Ramona. A great movie, worth a watch, no doubt. And hey, with that, that's my first ever movie review. I hope you guys liked it. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe.